Just setting up the podcast. Just gonna put them. Oh, come in. Who is it?
Nathan.
Oh, hey, Brenton.
Hey,
What's up?
I'm going to teach you how to wrestle.
What? Dig on this. That's the theme song.
That's it.
That's it.
That's what we should just do. Don't even edit that. That's it. That's all it is.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Classic Movie Banter. Here we are.
Guys, welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
We're here again.
Podcast where me, that dude Brenton, and that guy over there, Nathan.
Hello.
We talk about films that are 20 years or older. 20 years.
Yes.
And we tell you whether if they're worth still watching today, or if they're worth snapping in half, and then like putting in a parcel, right? Like as if to post it. And then just like leave that sitting next to your like typewriter just for like a couple of weeks before it starts to smell.
Sounds like a wonderful thing to do with a DVD, Brenton. What a wonderful occasion. Oh, how are you feeling after Valentine's Day? I tell you what, our listeners are loving their Valentine's Day stories with Wuthering Heights. What a popular film that ended up being.
Hey, who knew that was going to be the one that took off? You know what I mean? People just want to imagine themselves on the moors and, imagine that there's a castle there. And that they're in the arms of Sir Laurence Olivier. You know what I mean?
Jesus. I was so glad we weren't alone with how we felt about that film, Brenton. It was like, it was a nightmare.
It wasn't a nightmare. It was an experience.
Well, I'm glad this week we're cleansing our palate, Brenton. We're finally here at the Coen Brothers. After 91 fucking episodes, we're here. We finally get to talk about the Coen Brothers.
We made it. And, we're not talking about No Country for Old Men, obviously, because that's not 20 years. We're not talking about Fargo, Yeah. We're talking about another film that was released in 1991.
Yes.
That's called Barton Fink.
Barton Fink.
Directed by Joel Coen. And written by Ethan Coen and Joel Coen. So, here we go.
Here we go. That's how the film opens, with the Coen brothers walking up to the camera going, here we go.
Here we go. Here we go. Nathan, I've got a question for you, buddy.
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, Brenton, I'm so glad you asked, I'm just emotionally, up and down right now after watching this movie. So I've got to deal with this thing I've gone through by pitching you this movie. Can you pitch me the movie? All right, Brenton. So, have you ever experienced writer's block?
Yes.
Great. Are you experiencing it right now?
Maybe. I don't want to reveal that information.
Well, then I'll let you sit over there while I pitch you this movie. So, it's the 1940s. World War II is happening, bloody military World War II actions going on in Europe. Brenton, we're not going to be in Europe.
Awesome. So this is a war... Oh. I thought
we're avoiding the war. We're avoiding the war in 1941, and instead we're following Barton Fink. Have you seen Adam Driver be a playwright in Marriage Story and move to LA?
I have seen that. Actually.
Well, guess what? So too does Barton Fink. He's a playwright in New York who also moves to LA. And he's not a big fan of the change, but rather than have the baggage of a divorced Scarlett Johansson, he has instead writer's block, Brenton.
Wow. Okay.
Which one would you rather be stuck with? And he's hired by Capitol Pictures, this Hollywood studio, to write a wrestling movie in Hollywood. But he can't quite seem to do it, Brenton. He's just bloody scratching his head, unable to write. So we, the audience, follow Barton Fink as he has this wonderful adventure around LA and meets these quirky characters as he tries and finds the inspiration to write a wrestling movie. And maybe the film escalates and maybe it becomes a whole bunch of different things. But that's the general premise, is that he tries to write a wrestling movie.
But Nathan, how hard is it to write a wrestling movie? I mean, why is he so focused on writing this wrestling film, and why can't he just write down some random plot? I don't understand.
I mean, obviously, if you've seen Rocky V, it's extremely easy to write any sports movie, let alone wrestling.
Could it be that he's wrestling with his own creativity?
Brenton, I'm going to just say right at the top, I'm pitching this movie, and it's going to have a lot of themes and symbolism and messages and metaphors. It's going to have onomatopoeia. It's going to have alliteration. Other literary words. These are all going to be in the movie.
Okay. Cool.
It's about, many things. It's a movie to unpack, Brenton, and this is the movie Barton Fink.
Well, thanks for your pitch, Nathan.
You're welcome.
I'm not quite sure if that quite sells the film for me at the moment, just hearing that. But after watching it, I get that you can't talk about, where this film goes.
No,
You know
and
what I
you don't like, and you're doing that for a good reason. Like one of the
Exactly.
best things about this movie is the surprising directions it goes in, and genuinely, the more surprised you are, I think the better it is.
Let's get into it. Let's
get
rip off the
into it.
Band-Aid and talk
Let's
about
get
the
into
film.
it.
I really like this movie. Is what I'm going to start off by saying. I think it's great. In saying that, maybe there's some bias there because I'm a big Coen Brothers fan. But, I wouldn't say this is their best work, but it's very good.
I think it's actually quite excellent. I think this is one of the better films I've seen in a while, Brenton.
Oh, in a while.
In a while. Maybe it's because we did, Wuthering Heights, and actually, no, Priscilla was great, but like maybe just Wuthering Heights. I want to get that taste out of my mouth. Yeah. It's so good though. It's so good, and I can understand why compared to the rest of the rest of the Coen Brothers canon, maybe it's not as strong as the rest of it. But this feels like such a dense, delicious film that like I want to watch maybe 3 more times just to understand what the fuck is going on.
So let's talk from a technical standpoint. Let's talk about how good, and I'm just going to list some things off here. Let's just talk about the detailed, fantastic production design.
Oh my god!
Let's talk about.
Here's some sets.
Let's talk about some performances from everyone's favorite John, the 2 Johns. You know what I mean?
Oh yes,
both our Johns are fantastic in this
John
film.
Turturro and John Goodman. It's wonderful. It's so good. You know what? We have a lot of actor reunions in this 1991 movie.
We do.
We have the return from Monsters Inc. of both Randall and Sully, with Steve Buscemi and John Goodman. And I'm sad that in 1991 we didn't get a Monsters Inc. reference, but that's okay.
That's all right.
We also, more importantly, Brenton, get a Spy Kids reunion. Because we have Steve Buscemi, and then we have one of the bosses, who's like plays the guys with the hands for heads.
Oh, of course, yeah. So I my mind didn't even go there, but you're totally right.
The second I saw him, I'm like, it's the Spy Kids guy.
No, yeah, he's fantastic. And I can't pronounce his last name, but it's Tony Shalhoub, I think.
Yeah.
Pronounce it. He's a fantastic actor, and so there was a nice little Spy Kids.
We got a Spy Kids reunion, which immediately gives the movie 5 stars.
Yeah, well, now that you say that, I'm changing my star count right now.
And it's. I think this is one of the most perfectly cast movies I think I've ever seen. Like everyone delivers. Everyone, even if you have like 3 lines, they deliver. Like. Just Judy Davis is in this movie and she's outstanding.
She really is.
But she's always outstanding. She's right from that era where she did Husbands and Wives, that Woody Allen film.
Yeah.
It was like filmed around the same era. I love her in that movie. And so it's great seeing her in this as well. God, she's so good.
I think this screenplay is really good as well.
It is.
I think its only issue and the only, I guess, constructive criticism I have for this film, because as we know, Nathan, no film is perfect, is that I feel like sometimes it's a bit heavy-handed with its themes, especially when it comes to stifling creativity, and I guess it's a bit heavy-handed because the main character in this film, Barton, is heavy-handed in the way when he goes on his long rants about art and about.
I think that's done deliberately though, because Barton, when he befriends John Goodman, it's very like, I'm from the high class and you're from the low class, and he's like, but I'm not going to be pretentious about it, but then he ends up being quite pretentious about it. I never found that like droning, or I didn't find it like monotonous.
It's not that I necessarily found it droning. It's just I remember noting when I was viewing the film that I was like, this is a bit heavy. You know what I mean? And that's not the. I just thought with a lot of the themes, I was like, I've got it. I was thinking a lot of the time. But
I know what the movie's about. It's like, well, that's the thing. I think the movie makes you think you know what it's about, but then it does something very different. You're like, okay, wait, no, I've lost the plot again. Did you feel that?
Yes and no. I mean, in terms of the plot, it does something very different, but thematically, it's still exploring the same ideas, but using another extreme. So
yeah,
my thing with it is that I was surprised by the film. I'm not, and this isn't a huge criticism. Like overall, I'm very positive on this. I just think sometimes it was just a bit heavy-handed with the way it would handle subject matter, and yeah, that was probably intentional as well. Like I said, because the titular character is the most heavy-handed, blatant guy out there. You know what I mean? It's actually an interesting performance from John Turturro because
and very reserved as well. He's normally quite outlandish.
Well, he goes from the 2 extremes, which is really cool. So he's either very reserved and kind of socially, let's say, awkward, and then he goes to the other extreme of that he'll go on these long, like literally like insane. It's like an insane person that only like John Turturro could fully.
There's a
pull
lot of
off
insanity
and, like,
in this film.
ground in reality when he goes on these long rants about his artistry and about the common man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then we have this lovely again, like John Goodman's just giving us major Pacha vibes when he's like with his character. You know what I mean? That warm kind of soup.
There's one point where John Turturro just goes, pacha, as he's explaining it.
Yeah, so the performances are great. I think the cinematography is really good as well.
Yeah, because they hired Roger Deakins for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always a plus.
Mate, everyone worked on this film.
Everyone did.
My thing with it is as well, and again, like I'm being so positive about this. I love what this film's about. I love that it kind of explores Hollywood. You know, not necessarily that it's like the most, I guess, faithful depiction of Hollywood maybe of the time. It's more about the writer and it's more about the writer's plight, I guess.
Although I feel like what the movie's trying to do is make a lot of the internal external.
Yeah,
of what's going on with the writer. So I don't think you should go and go, oh, this was Hollywood in the 40s. Because when I was watching it, I thought there was going to be a lot of Hail Caesar in this. Because it felt a little bit Hail Caesar, where you meet the studio head and you're kind of going out to the different sections of Hollywood. We getting those vibes?
I'm glad it wasn't though. Like,
yeah.
I just think I really, for me, I really kind of, I guess, could relate to this in a way that I'm not sure if other audience members would necessarily. You know what I mean?
What did it do to make it relatable to you?
Well, I like as an artist, I was watching this and I was
Brenton like tosses back his hair as he says that, like, as an artist.
Well, you can relate to what is being said.
Yeah.
And then what I think it does well as well is that it provides the other point of view. It provides a few point of views, like one from the business point of view, from the studio head, from John Goodman, who's just the man on the ground, and this idea of like just the picture being the picture as opposed to like something that's going to change the world. And
it's very sobering, isn't it?
Yeah. But at the same time, I can imagine, and I think this is the point as well, I think this is intentional, there would be audience members for the first half, let's say, that would be going, is this literally a movie about a guy that has writer's block and is just trying to write a fucking movie? Like, where's the action, as the producer says? Where's all this? And what I think is great about this film is that it then successfully subverts your expectations, and when it becomes something more, that we kind of get those elements, and that I think that if you can get through the first half of this film and you're going, oh, I'm not sure if I'm relating to this, or oh, this is a bit boring, this is just about some guy that's trying to write a fucking story who's a bit pretentious, why should I care? Just know that it'll get its hooks in you at a certain point as
because it 2/3 through this film it radically shifts in genre, in tone, in action, all of it like as radical as you can do, where it's almost a completely different movie.
Yeah, and I love that, but I still love that at the same time it's still exploring the same ideas. So it's just like it just takes it to the extreme, and it takes this character to an extreme circumstance, as you know, movies and stories should.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved that about it, and I loved where it went, and I just loved the writing. I just like where this character went, where the other characters went, where we ended up. You know, I kind of want to watch this again, and I think that's the greatest compliment I can
really
give
want
it.
to watch this again, but to be honest with you, Brenton, I actually preferred the first half to the second half. Like before that shift, I felt like the movie was more nuanced with its themes, and I thought it was more subdued. And I felt like when we had that big shift and the movie kind of changed, I thought it was more blunt, and I thought it was being extreme for the sake of being extreme. I didn't think it was being as intelligent.
Oh, I don't think so at all. I don't think it was being blunt for the sake of being blunt, or extreme for the sake of being extreme. I think that's where it was always kind of heading. And maybe it might have been jarring at first because, and we'll talk about this in spoilers, because of circumstance and context. I just think that like the film needed that, you know, it needed that. It couldn't just keep going on the same path of what it was going, because
I don't think I agree with you, Brenton.
So what would you have rathered?
It's easy for a critic to say just not that, and but like in the sense that I thought we were getting something really like a quiet deconstruction on the artist, and then it just like ramps up and like. I don't know. I thought we were going to get more on the alcoholism side of the movie, because there's a lot of alcoholism in there. I thought, you know what? For the first 2/3, I thought this would be better as a play. I thought this would have made a great play. But then in the last third, I'm like, okay, wait, no, you can't do this as a play. Like literally, it'd be impossible. But like, I think, I don't know. It feels a little bit on the nose. the last third of it. I feel like the Coen Brothers are going, like, stepping in front of the camera, going, "Do you get it? Do you understand what these characters represent?" Like, that's when I thought the film was like screaming at us compared to the first 2/3. I felt like it really like shifted to take us to places, and like there's a lot of payoffs I loved, like with the imagery, like the woman in the frame and like all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It just I think I wanted it to be quieter. I think also because I was, you know what? Okay, here's my issue with it. I think in real life you can learn a lot of lessons from it, as far as like what to do with writer's block and, you know, how to get around it and, you know, exposure to real life and that kind of stuff. But at the end, it's so radically like absurdist and extreme that I feel like I can't really learn anything from the last third. Like, it doesn't really offer a thesis on this is how you deal with writer's block, or this is how you overcome any of the deeper themes, classism or you know, or the common man, or all that kind of stuff.
Like my original point, my original criticism was like that. I think that the whole film is heavy-handed in a sense, and can be said that, like, you know, it's very with its thematic elements and its imagery, it could be seen as very obvious, which is kind of why I want to watch it again, because I think there's more in there.
It's so rewatchable.
For me, I think the film was always going to go there. You know what I mean? I think the film was building.
You wouldn't have predicted
that whole
though.
first. No, you wouldn't have predicted specifically what was going to happen. But you have to admit that there was some zany-ass Coen Brothers bullshit in the first half that was being set up. And like, even though you're saying, like, yeah, maybe it was a bit more realistic and nuanced, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of I call it Coen Brothers bullshit in the sense of like there's and I love Coen Brothers bullshit.
Same.
But there's like,
I will eat their bullshit any day of the week.
There's a lot of like, you know, there was Big Lebowski vibes, you know, with that studio head and
big time, and I love him. He's so good. He's so
you know
good.
What I mean? There's these elements that are larger than life that are presented to us, and we kind of feel like we're building to something, but we're not quite sure what. You know, with Judy Davis's character, you know, there's an exploration that happens there, and when we kind of reveal some things about her, then the film again just changes radically and subverts your expectations in that sense. But I was still satisfied with what we got from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I didn't finish the movie going like, oh no, if it wasn't for that last third, like, you know, it wasn't a Game of Thrones season 8 kind of moment. But like, I felt that. I loved it. I did love it. I felt quite accosted to it, and maybe that's the point of it. I think also.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just literally shocked. Like
because. We could talk about this more in spoilers, but I think it's integral. I literally think it's integral to where we go with the character and kind of what the point it's trying to make.
I want to compliment sandwich this. I want to give this movie a compliment. I think one of the best things you can do to watch this movie is that afterwards read about it. This feels like a film like designed for academics and film criticism and like, you know, like discourse and all that kind of stuff. Because it's not so packed with imagery that it's alienating and like it's like looking at like a Monet and going, what the fuck is this about? Like you get it, but like there's a lot of little shit that you can eventually unpack. Like I had like one of the funnest time I had with this movie actually was reading about it afterwards and be like, oh, like that's what that means. Like, ooh.
At the same time, I think that this film isn't something that's very like esoteric, you know? Like I think like you can watch it and then can understand what happens, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's no Tom Hooper's Cats, is it?
Oh, let's not talk about that in the same conversation as this. But hey, any excuse for me to go on a Cats tangent, you know what I mean?
No, Brenton, I'm steering you right away.
Let's just say this. There's a mosquito in this film, okay? That is buzzing around. But let's just say it's not tap dancing and it's not kind of humanoid CGI, human face on it.
No.
And Rebel Wilson isn't eating it. So instantly, I'm going to add. Speaking of which, I'm going to add another star just for that exact reason. So just
fantastic!
Don't mind me. I'm just going to draw it on.
Rightfully so. Go. But you know, speaking of the mosquito, do you know that while they were filming, the Coen Brothers were actually contacted by an animal rights group who expressed concern about how the mosquitoes would be treated?
I did read about this. What? And can you imagine like getting ready to, you know, you're going into production and you're like, oh, hey, we just got a letter here, boys. Don't mind that. I'll just leave it on your desk. Yeah. What could this possibly be? From
the animal rights group, we love mosquitoes.
They're worried about the treatment of Frank the mosquito. Oh, which then got me thinking. You know, what was happening on set to like see to this mosquito's needs.
I thought it just wasn't a real mosquito. I thought they just CGI'd it.
Maybe it had its own trailer. Maybe it was real.
Oh my god. Like,
Maybe it
it's
was like-
literally the most deadly animal on the planet. You know what I mean? Like, it spreads all the diseases.
Literally. That
Like,
wasn't
literally.
a joke. It literally is, yeah.
It is literally the most deadly animal. I would rather, like, oh,
You know,
jeez.
Can I tell a quick story?
You can tell a story.
Last year, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but in my spare time, I like to do some acting. I like to do some creative shit, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I like to
we
go-
all get around
and-
the block, Brenton.
So I was doing this job and we were in rehearsal. And during the rehearsal, there was this huge motherfucking mosquito that was in the rehearsal room.
Actually.
And it just wouldn't leave it. Like, this thing was giant. It was like a thick mosquito. Like, you could see
jeez.
it's, you know, like when
thick
you see
with
those
two
ones that
C's,
is-
like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He'd been sipping the blood, you know what I mean?
He'd been
had a
juicing.
bit too much. Anyway, so this thing's kind of flying around and it comes to this surface like around the table, and I just got there was an object. I think it was like a cup or something, like a plastic cup, and I just slammed this thing on top of the mosquito and I killed it. And it did the thing where like the blood splurts out of like.
Oh,
you can
right.
see where
Yeah,
it
you
was-
see the little
like,
explosion.
yeah, and it was like the little explosion happened. It was on the table, and I was like, "Fuck yes, I got this thing!" Like it was because it was biting everyone. It was really annoying, and I viciously murdered this mosquito in front of everyone. One of the other actors then turned to me as if I'd literally just like committed genocide, which I guess I had.
Jesus.
But saying that how dare I, like kill this mosquito?
Really? They gave you shit for killing a mosquito?
To which we then had this huge conversation where we had to convince this said person that these were like the most deadliest things on the planet. You know what I mean? And how much damage they've done to the human race. You know what I mean? Like,
Brenton, on this podcast, we don't normally take political stands. We normally try to avoid it, but I'm confident saying, we do not endorse mosquitoes, just in general.
hey, I don't. My other point was, I'm extremely allergic to mosquitoes. If I get bitten
Really?
by one of these things, if I get
never
bitten by
knew
one
that.
of these things, like these huge welts pop up on my fucking skin that stay there for like days.
Really?
And it's like, yeah, it's a thing. Like,
Well, now I know how to bully you into doing something, Brenton. We're going to have a cage of them at the ready to go.
I'd already been bitten, like, in this rehearsal, like, behind my knee.
You fall to the floor and have like a seizure. It's like she's like, keep him alive.
Not quite. I was feeling it though. I was breaking out in sweats and I was like, oh fuck. And this huge welt was popping up in that in that fold like behind my knee. You know, that area, like, where it's all kind of, it's that gross kind of area where there's a bend in the leg and there's this huge fucking mosquito disgusting welt coming up, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is a lot. And so yeah, I killed that thing and I was glad I did it. Good riddance.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
That was the story of Brenton killing a mosquito.
Oh, what a tale. What a tale. Hey, maybe Barton should have written that story.
Jeez. Brent, do you want to write this thing?
I mean, I guess that's what we're here to do.
I guess. it's our job somewhat, maybe.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think it's great. I'm excited to watch it again. Like I said, I don't know where it stands in my kind of Coen Brothers rankings, I guess, but I don't know where it is. I just really enjoyed it. I really dug this film. I liked what it was about. I think technically it's really well done. A lot of great people worked on this. It's worth seeing, I think. So, like I said, if you can get through that first hour, like again, there's enough.
It's not a slag. The first hour isn't like, it's not a struggle.
I agree, it's not a struggle, but I can imagine that I just know that there would be people out there that would be like, why the fuck are we watching this kind of guy go about writing this script?
But I think it builds empathy. Like, if you can sit through Birdman, you can sit through this.
But I know that there's people that can't sit through Birdman. You
How
know what I
dare
mean?
they?
Like, yeah. So my point is, if there's nothing, if there's not enough there to pull you in, which I think there is, I think there's enough little zany pulls, and the side characters are so brilliant, and the world is so well established that you kind of want to go into it and see what this is about and where it could go. Just wait. Just please, just stick with it.
You just wait.
And have a good time. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. I don't know.
So my thumbs are up. My thumbs are
This would
definitely
be a very
up for
interesting
this.
movie to put on a Thursday night. You know what I mean? Like, imagine you come home from work and this is the movie that you watch. Like, I don't think it would unwind you from work. I think it'd just get you wound back up, if anything. You're like, oh no. Now I'm a playwright. I don't know. Would I recommend this to people? I think it's really extraordinary, and I think it's worth like. It's like when I feel like a lot of Lighthouse parallels in the same way that I love rewatching Lighthouse. I want to rewatch this a lot, like with Barton. I feel there's a lot to unpack, and like the more I watch it, the more shit I'll find. So, yeah, I'd say give it a watch. This I don't think it's that pretentious that it would alienate the general viewer, but like I don't think this should be your first Coen Brothers film. I think you should do a feeler.
Oh, watch Fargo.
Yeah, watch Fargo
Coen
first.
Brothers
Always
film,
watch Fargo first.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can do Fargo, you can do this, which also has a great Steve Buscemi performance. Is he in it?
In Fargo, of course he is.
Yes, he is. That's right. He's one of the criminals. Oh, I love that movie. That's the reason we're doing this one instead of Fargo. Oh, it's so good. Oh, you betcha. And great TV series as well.
I haven't seen the series, unfortunately.
What?
But,
You haven't? It's one of the best.
I hear that first season is a wild time.
All of them, even the Chris Rock, all of it. It's all good, Brenton. You got to watch all
Chris
of it.
Rock is in it?
Yeah, in the latest season.
Holy
They
shit.
got Chris
All right.
Rock to do a Fargo season.
What's that, season 4?
Yeah.
Cool. I have to
Mate,
get on it.
get around. It's all on Netflix. Just bloody give it a watch.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on
Is it really?
Netflix. Yeah, they don't make it,
good
but they
lord.
distribute it here in Australia.
Wow. Okay.
Give it a
I'm in.
watch. Oh
I'm
my
in.
god, Martin Freeman in that first season. But even like Kirsten Dunst, the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy's own Kirsten Dunst is in season 2, and she fucking nails it.
And Jesse Plemons is in that
And
second
Jesse
season as well,
Plemons
right?
is in it. And you know what? So they filmed season 2 of Fargo, Kirsten and Jesse, and then they met on set and ended up marrying and having children in real life.
Are they married?
They're married!
Goodness me.
With children, no less.
Nathan, I reckon you should start a new podcast where you talk about celebrity couples
Oh,
and like
Jesus.
Hollywood news.
That's
I reckon,
no.
I reckon you'd be wonderful, and I'd just be the guy that would kind of like you'd tell all this shit to me, and I'd be like, "Is that really happening? Do they have kitties?"
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll be like, they're married, Brenton. You'll be like, no way. You know what? Fargo was a big like love cess because in the third season, this is not good news though. In the third season, it's got Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and they also met on the third season of Fargo. But Ewan McGregor was married, and then he had an affair with Mary Elizabeth, and then he divorced his wife for 20 years, and now he's with Mary Elizabeth Winstead instead.
hey, when there's a will, there's a way.
Jesus. So I really hope that Chris Rock keeps his shit together for season 4. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey man, what happened with Billy Bob and Martin Freeman then? Was there any?
I mean, they're married
there?
now too, but we don't talk about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like a low key, like, will they, won't they kind of relationship, but we know they are.
Okay, good to know. I thought so. I was really thinking that, but I'm glad you confirmed it, Nathan.
It's so good. Fuck, it's so. I could spend a whole episode talking about Fargo, the TV series. It's so good, but I won't,
Yeah, so your thumbs are up for Fargo the series. Are your thumbs up for Barton?
mate. My thumbs are so up for Barton. The more I think about this movie, the more I love it. But also in saying that, it is a film that really tickles me. You know, it's about, it's about a writer dealing with the creative process. Like it's quirky. It's got some zany side characters, all and like wonderful introductions. Like it's a perfect cup of tea for me personally. So there's a little bit of bias, but
Wonderful. I'm glad that this is for you. You know what I mean? I'm glad that
fuck the other listeners. It's just for me.
when you said that this film tickled you, I just had the image in my head of John Turturro, like, doing like this little piggy on your toes, like, and you're sitting there like giggling away as the fucking house burns down. Speaking of which, let's get into spoilers.
Oh yeah, spoilers. Here we go. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh,
Britton, what the fuck is this movie?
okay. So let's get straight to it.
Let's get to the big thing. Like, jeez.
The scene where John Turturro and Judy Davis, he wakes up. They've just had a, it's na 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 na, doom. Oh,
It's so weird that they have like sex and it pans to a drain. Like, why does it do that?
Oh gosh, like of course they were going to have sex. Like,
Yeah, I'm happy with the sex, Brenton. I'm always happy with the sex. But why does it pan to like a drain in a sink when they have sex?
I don't know. I thought it was a good shot. I thought it was interesting.
It's just Brenton like sitting with his arms crossed at the couch going, I think that's a good shot there.
That's literally what happened. Didn't you hear me?
But yeah, and it's great. And like he wakes up and there's the fucking mosquito buzzing about. What a good fulfilling shot though when he finally swats it.
Oh my goodness. When he swats it though,
Oh.
and he slaps the shit out of her and it explodes on her.
Yeah, and she
then
doesn't
you're
react,
like-
and you're like, wait a minute.
And you're like, what the fuck? And then it's just like the blood just starts oozing out from under her and you're like, what the fuck? And then, at first, like, you could be mistaken in thinking this is like a dream sequence or something.
I was thinking
This
that
is
for a
nightmare
while.
sequence.
Like for 10 minutes after this, I was thinking, when is he gonna wake up?
But thank God it's not. I fucking hate dream sequences like this. In films.
Same. I was annoyed actually. I thought if it was gonna be a dream sequence, that'd be really lazy.
Yeah. If it was like, have you seen After Earth?
No. Why the fuck would I watch After Earth, Brenton?
Well, we're gonna sit down and watch it because it's a fun time.
No, we're not. Also, it's like in
yeah, we
2013, so we got years before we have to talk about that.
Hey, we're gonna sit down and watch it and have a fun time.
No,
I'm
we're
telling you.
not. We talk about classic movies, Brenton. Who the fuck says After Earth is a classic film?
No one.
Exactly.
But my point is that there's this bullshit fucking dream sequence in that
here
film,
we
my
go.
friend, and it involves the main character Jaden Smith, his deceased sister, and
Is that played by Willow?
he keeps. No, I don't know. It's
Oh,
not.
missed opportunity.
And she keeps like appearing to him in visions throughout the film. Anyway, there's a point there I think he's on a raft or something, and he's going down this river, and he's having this dream. And there's this thing with the sister is that I think before she died, she was reading oh fuck, what's that book called? The one with the whale.
Oh,
They're
Moby
gonna
Dick.
kill the whale. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so during the film, before she dies, she's reading Moby Dick.
Right.
And for some
Also,
reason,
spoilers
there's
for
all-
After Earth if you care.
Yeah, no one gives a fuck. Like, watch it. It's fun. But during the film, like, you know, in terms of the themes, they're always talking about Moby Dick in
Okay.
this movie for some reason. And it's never like, speaking of themes that don't make sense in films, like Moby Dick's just always talked about. And it's like
Rightio.
M. Night is like trying to be really smart, but like he's just throwing it in there to try and look smart. Anyway,
Jeez.
so Jaden starts spouting off bits from Moby Dick, I'm pretty sure. And then she's all like, wake up, Jaden Smith, wake up. And then he's like, he just keeps talking like Moby Dick lines louder. And then eventually it does this horrible jump cut with this like horrible sound effect. Like, you know, the jump scare sound effect, like the dun, like that
Oh,
bullshit
yeah.
sound effect that they'll add to like things in movies to make it like
Which
a
I
jump scare.
hate. It's still number one on my movie traumas list.
It's terrible. So it goes done, cuts to her, and it cuts to her like mangled face, obviously, like after like of her deceased body, like, and she's like, "Wake up!" And then he wakes up, and it's like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's hilarious.
And
It's
so
like-
in this movie, were you waiting for like John Turturro to be woken up in the exact same way?
well, I was hoping that wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
That Judy Davis wasn't going to go dung, wake up, and then he was going to go oh.
Like, ooh! It's so true. Like, but I was waiting for a while to think, when is he gonna wake up? Because I was convinced it was a dream sequence. And then
No,
when
yeah.
like he gets John Goodman, because also here's the thing, John Goodman leaves. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go to New York. But then when Barton Fink needs help, John Goodman is in his apartment. So I thought, oh, this must be a dream because John Goodman can't be back already. But then...
Well, no, he says he's going in a few days. So I thought,
okay.
because this film takes place over a week. You know what I mean?
Which is
so like,
crazy. Yeah.
so that made sense to me. In fact, the only time I thought it was a dream sequence was initially when you see the body, and then I was like, no, this is happening. This has got to be happening. Like, if it's not happening, I'll be very disappointed.
But back up 5 steps. How did Judy Davis actually die? Like, so did John Goodman kill her? Because that's the implication, isn't it? That's like what is kind of...
Yeah, John. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. He
But
killed
like,
her.
but
Yeah.
how? Like, did they just... Because they didn't get drunk
Well-
or anything like that. Like, did he just like sneak in the middle of the night and just like stab her? Or like how would John Turturro next to her in bed not notice her being killed?
Well, I think during this film, there's a lot of. You'll notice with John Turturro that his sleeping patterns are very irregular.
Oh,
And
okay.
like it's very well set up in the film that I think that like he's like pretty fucked in the head when he's like asleep and he'll fall asleep and he'll be going to sleep and it's like he has a sleeping disorder or something in this film. It's like so that's kind of established, but the other thing that's established a lot is that John Goodman knows everything that's going on in all the rooms in the hotel.
Yeah, that's right. He's
You
a little
know,
bit
and he can
mythical
hear-
like that, isn't he? He's a little bit like the god of the hotel. And John Turturro is us, the common man, in their relationship to God.
Well, I just think it's very telling that like he knows what's going on and he says he can hear through the pipes. I think it's very easy for him to make this happen.
He hears through the pipes like the fucking basilisk, just like slithering about. Like,
Exactly. I had the same thought in my head just then as well as I said that. But
It's just
yeah,
John,
I
as
think
John Goodman's like hissing outside the front door. Like,
what was interesting though was the fact that the detectives said that
Who are
that
great,
John
by the way.
Goodman's, yeah. The John Goodman as a serial killer uses a shotgun to kill his victims.
yeah.
And then
he wouldn't have used that in the
and
bed.
decapitates them. No.
No.
So I think it's been a bit of a stabbing that's happened there,
Mm.
and then he takes a body away and decapitates her. Obviously,
Jeez. Great setup as well. How he like you hear this story about how he decapitates victims, and then like the camera pans to like the package, and you're like, oh no.
Well, this is the thing. What's in the box?
I was thinking that. I was thinking about Seven as well. Like, what's in the box?
But do you think her head is in that box? Like, what is in the box?
I mean, it has to be her head, doesn't it? I mean, what else would it be?
Well, he comes back at the end and he says, "Just letting you know, I did lie that I said that this was mine and it's not."
Well, obviously the head doesn't belong to him. It belongs to Judy Davis.
My point is that like, what do we think that the head is in the box?
It has to be. Like, I just can't think of anything else it would be. He's not going to open it up and suddenly it's like another screenplay or something. Like,
if it is the head, it's pretty fucked up in the sense not only there's a decapitated head in the parcel.
Also, you'd be able to smell it from that point. But go on.
But the dialogue, but also like a bloody head in a thing is gonna like fucking start leaking and like, you know, as it like.
I love it when John Turturro shakes the box as well. Bless, like a Christmas present. Like, ooh, what's in this one?
But if it is her head, it makes it all the more fucked up when he says like, "Oh, use this as a lucky charm." Like,
yeah,
you know,
jeez, it's like, oh,
hopefully this will bring you fortune in writing that screenplay.
Oh, I love it's very fucked up, and like it's, I don't know. See, that's when I was like, this is a bit much when like the detectives are like standing outside the hallway and like John Goodman rocks up and the hotel's on fire, but like it's a very coordinated fire. Like he walks down the hall as the flames kind of travel with him. It's like, is he the devil? I was like, is he meant? And he's like Hail Hitler and all that kind of shit. Like, is he meant to be like the personification of the Hitler of
What is this film saying about fascism?
That's a good point, because at one point he makes an anti-Semitic remark. He's like, "Oh, you're a Jew," and John Goodman's like, "Yeah, what of it?" And John Goodman's like, "Oh," and then he just kind of walks off. I don't know, because it takes place during World War II, and like there's one point where the film boss for some reason suddenly gets enlisted, and he's wearing like a colonel uniform, but like half of the badges are awkwardly dangling off his costume because they're not pinned down correctly. Like, what do you think this film says about fascism?
It's probably the theme in the film that I'm the most unsure about. Obviously, there's Jewish characters in this film. You know, we start on Broadway. You know what I mean? We start on Broadway. We go to the film industry. We go to Hollywood. And that whole Hitler line, as well as that. I think that is an element to this film that I haven't quite unpacked yet as to what it's trying to say. One of my favorite kind of monologues in the film actually is kind of when John Goodman goes. I think it's like probably the best piece of acting in the film. Is when John Goodman starts talking about how it doesn't come from a place of hate, that he does empathize with people, that he is like the common man, that he does kind of understand with people, and it's that illusion that he's like setting people free.
It's in my trying to not sound pretentious, but in the same way he never listens to John Goodman.
Yeah, exactly.
And like John Goodman tries, as the common man tries to talk, but then John Turturro keeps like saying, "Oh no, I know how you think." It's like, it's perfect.
And it links back to that thing of like, this is my house. You came in and you told me to you complained that I was being too noisy.
Yeah.
You know? and then John Turturro apologizes and he's like, "Hey man, it's all good.
It's all good." Yeah. And then they have a little bit of a wrestle. Do you like the wrestle?
I did enjoy the wrestle.
It was a good scene. It was a great scene. Actually, wonder what one of my...
It was even better when it was referenced later on, and the detectives were like, fuck, is there some sexual... Was there like some sexual thing between you two?" And he's like, "No, we just wrestled." And he says it really aggressively.
And they're like, "Dear God, you sick pervert." Like, it's so good. And also, they're the most stereotypical LA detectives. Like,
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
They're like I kind of wish they had Jack Nicholson from Chinatown as the detective instead. And he walks in with his little nose bandage, and he's like, "What's going on here, bucko?" Or even Clint Eastwood from Dirty Harry would have been great as well. Clint Eastwood versus John Goodman. Now that's a fight I would have loved to see.
Yeah.
But it's great. One of my favorite scenes in this movie actually was the introduction to Judy Davis and like the other writer, who characters I loved, because like John Goodman like goes to visit their home, and she opens the door, and it's the most hilarious like screaming in the background I think I've ever heard in a movie.
Yeah, when John Turturro rocks up and you just hear the
He's like, "Where is my honey?"
My honey, yeah.
Oh, he's screaming in the background, and Judy Davis she's acting perfectly. She's like, "Look, it's just a little bit tumultuous right now. Maybe we can meet up later." Oh,
it was interesting that she was like a ghostwriter as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, great. I really like that was mentioned. You know, because there's a lot of those women in Hollywood like that. Sadly,
totally.
Yeah,
and then it went as far back as the novels. You know, it wasn't just the it wasn't because it's implied. I think at first you think you understand this person, and it's always said you don't understand this, and it's like, well, and you as an audience, like the film does this really well. It puts you in the head of John Turturro in the sense of like, well, I do understand him. He's this writer that's like, we've just had this setup of John Turturro, Barton Fink coming to Hollywood, and it's kind of broken him and his creative spirit in a way. And that's what happened to this guy.
Which is, by the way, what the rock means. I read up later on. Well, you know how the waves crash against that rock a couple times?
Yeah.
The Coen Brothers said that was a metaphor for like John Turturro being the rock and Hollywood being the wave.
Right. Okay. Well, it's that idea, I think, that you think you understand where this drunkard writer is coming from and why he is the way he is and it doesn't excuse the behavior, obviously, like Barton even says that, but you think you empathize and understand that concept. But when you find out that she actually wrote the novels as well, it changes like your whole perception of this guy and who the fuck he is. And so like Barton's grunted like very dramatic like reaction to that news.
Yeah, he's like, what?
It's kind of warranted in a way because it's like...
He's so disappointed. I think the whole film's just him being so disappointed with Hollywood and all that, like... Or even disappointed that he's a writer, because he's got that theory. He says at one point, like, oh, maybe I've just told my one story. Maybe I'll never write again, like...
Maybe he isn't a writer, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly it. Which also I think a lot of writers feel when they write.
Yeah.
They're like, what the fuck am I doing? Also, not just writers, but all creatives. They're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like...
Because... I don't know, it's that idea I think of like... When I think of someone like Stephen King... who writes however many fucking words he writes a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's his thing. He writes. And then it's like that conversation they filmed with him, with Stephen King and George R.R. Martin. And George R.R. Martin's like,
I love that
totally
interview.
not that.
That's a good interview.
And his process is so... He talks about his gardening process and how he like...
I love it because George R. R. Martin's just like, how the fuck do you do it? Like, you can see that he's like visibly upset because he's like, I'm taking like 10 years to write one fucking book. And like Stephen King's like, stop it.
But I think all artists go through this thing of like, if you're not in a film, if you're not working on your next fucking masterpiece on the canvas and it's not done yet and you've like started it 3 times more, it's like, are you really a writer? Are you really this? Or like, is that just part of the process, or is it part of the process? Like, what is... Yeah, that was kind of an interesting idea that was explored.
And this film kind of
like,
explores it.
Yeah, and I like that, like with that established novelist, that like we find out that she's actually written it, that this is just some fucking hack that he's probably, that's the reason he drinks, is that he's so unsatisfied with like with his kind of lot in life and disgusted with himself, to be honest.
And I also think that's not exclusive to Judy Davis. I think a lot of the characters in these movies are hacks. In this movie are hacks. Like you can see the Hollywood bosses. Like, I love that he doesn't read the scripts and he has them read to him. You know what I mean? And like, especially when he confronts John Turturro for not writing and he ends up firing his assistant and like kissing John Turturro's feet.
Yeah.
Great
but then
scene.
What's great about that scene is that the scene at the end of the film, it's like the second last scene where the script is handed in
ending. Perfect ending. Yeah.
And he gets basically blackmailed into staying with the company.
It's perfect.
And you notice that I think it's Louis is the character's name. That's the guy that got fired in that scene. Yeah, is
he's back.
Is still there. Lou.
Lou.
Yeah, is still there, and it was never fired.
I thought that was genius. I like that he. I love that he doesn't love the scripts, but what I loved even more, and I think what's a bigger slap into the face. What the bigger slap to the face to Barton is when he says there are 20 other Barton Finks that he has that can write a Barton Fink script, and I think like as a writer that would just dig such a knife into him. Not the fact that like the boss didn't like it, but just the fact that he's just another conk in the Hollywood machine, and that also when you go through that industry, you realize there are a lot of other yous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
especially because have you gone through this, Brenda, where you've been in the audition room and you've seen a lot of other actors who just look very similar to you or something like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every casting you go for it's bizarre because there's a bunch of people that kind of look very similar to you.
Yeah. And you're like, am I that special snowflake?
But at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
the business. And you see John Turturro grappling with the business.
Yeah, and it's kind of life in a sense as well. Like, you know what I mean? No one... there is an element to everyone that is similar. Or there's people out there that are very similar to you. And to think that... And this is totally an artistry thing, you know what I mean? It's totally like
this is a film for artists, big time.
Yeah, like I think creatives do that thing where they try to, their way of like living life and like having to like live the life of of hard work, discipline, you know, creating all the time and trying to make a living from that, is that you have to believe that you're special and that you're like here to like influence or like, you know what I mean? And when you find out that the reality of the situation is that like, you know, business exists, people exist, people are consumers, and they at the end of the day, whilst, you know, I'm not saying that art isn't important because it is integral to society and stories have been told for like...
As Brenton's saying this, imagine like an American flag waving behind him and, you know, he's up at the podium.
But it's only one element that makes up humanity, you know what I mean? It's
true.
not the overriding thing that's... It has the potential to change people and to influence people and to teach people, but
there is that dark underbelly to it, and this movie is like John Turturro kind of realizing that. And I think as well, all those themes you just discussed, I think are perfectly summated in the final lines of the movie with the thesis.
Agreed.
That's the movie's like, here's our thesis
Agreed.
when he finally meets the woman in the picture, which is genius. Because at first I didn't recognize her. I'm like, oh, she's really pretty. And then she sits down and you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then he asks her, are you in pictures? And then she replies, don't be silly. I think that's so perfect about like her like saying, oh, are you in Hollywood? And she's like, no, don't be silly. Don't be in Hollywood. Like it nails... It's such a good ending. It's one of the better endings I've seen in a while.
I also love the last line of like how she says, is it? She asks, I think, is that yours? Is in like what's in the box?
Oh yeah.
Or whose is that? I think it is. And he basically just says that like he doesn't know. You know. He doesn't
exactly.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's so.
And
good.
he's just stuck now on that run. He's been blackmailed. You can see he's there for ages, and he's succumbed to the madness. It feels a little bit like. Lovecraftian, like succumbing to like the madness, you know? Like,
do you think he does succumb to it in the end?
I don't think he has a choice. I think Hollywood molds him. I think he's now in this hell. You know what? This could be purgatory. This whole movie could just be John Turturro going to purgatory.
I agree to a certain extent, but I also think it's freeing in a sense that he realizes that his own experience and his own views, that he is, you know, that he is kind of this liberal common man, voice for the people, that maybe, you know, he isn't that maybe he is a bit, maybe that in itself, thinking that you are that is a bit elitist.
And he ends up damaging the only people in the movie who aren't common are the off-screen characters of his parents and his family, who end up being the ones who suffer the most because he sends John Goodman to them. So he damages the common man in this movie.
Do you think the family's murdered?
I mean, that's what John Goodman kind of hints, isn't it? Like, also because he calls and they don't pick up.
Yeah, no, he calls and he can't reach them.
Yeah, I think they're dead. I think it's safe to say they're dead. At the very least, you know, he opens the package and he's like, "Mum."
Is it? Do you maybe? I don't know. I haven't quite made up my mind about that. But to me, it could be interesting as well if they're not dead and it's simply a factor of, you know. Because he just says that like, oh, they're my family, you know. He never contacts them before then. He never really talks about them apart from that one.
Yeah, it's quite true. He's quite distant, yeah. I do love it when he recommends the home-cooked meal. He's like, oh, if you want a good feed, here's the rents. Like,
But like maybe he's so far removed from them that like they no longer talk. You know, it could be as simple
he thinks
as
he's
that.
So the common man, he no longer needs to interact with the common man, but you see he's more detached than ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's a great character. It
is so good. It's so ripe for discussion, Brenton. Which is why I want to take us into some fan theories.
Special segment.
Ooh, so special. Brenton, I found some fan theories I want to share with you today about Barton Fink.
Oh, beautiful, Nathan.
Because oh boy, is it ripe for them. I've got 3 of them, Brenton. So the first one, Brenton, Barton Fink actually can't write. Like, he literally can't write. That's the first fan theory I found. So he isn't a creative person. And I got all these from Reddit. The reason he's not a creative person is because the wrestling movie he writes has the same first and last lines as the play that he writes at the start of the film. And he also named all the characters in his play after his family members, if you pay attention to the names said at the start of the film.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So also, because he has a Bible on his desk, that's why the opening line of the movie that he writes is the Bible. So he literally so in the same way that Judy Davis offers to be a hack for him, he literally cannot write.
That's an interesting idea.
Do you think at one point John Turturro was this creative? Because remember, he even dismisses the good reviews at the start of the movie, saying like he almost doesn't earn them. So maybe it's because he quite literally did not earn them, Brenton.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's interesting of a fact of like maybe he's not a writer, like I said before. And this is kind of
Instead, he's a lover.
yeah. Like who knows?
Ooh.
Like he just seems like a lost puppy. You know what I mean? Like
He does.
he's someone that's so sure of himself, but at the end of the day, there's so much insecurity there, and maybe it is lack of creativity or literal lack of but maybe he's got like no skills in terms of like
He's got literally no
skills.
skills. Like
Yeah, like he's just when it comes to writing, I mean, like
yeah.
he's
He goes up to Steve Buscemi. He's like, maybe I'll shine shoes instead.
maybe.
The second fan theory I found was that going from Judy Davis being murdered, that entire section onwards to the end is a dream sequence.
No, hate it.
You don't believe
Hate
it could be? Because it could be.
No.
It could be a dream sequence. Like
It could be, but if it is, it's bullshit and I hate it.
Well, that answers that fan theory. Thanks, Reddit users.
It can't be a dream sequence. It can't be.
No,
Like
because also it would rob the movie of any like narrative heft if like that's how it ends.
Like yeah, it would literally make it bullshit and it would make me hate it.
Because
So,
then we'd never
you
know if he actually finally wrote the play or if like the studio liked it. So So yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Well, I can see why, because it's a bit ludicrous. Like how the fuck he survives that building burning down for so long. You know what I mean? The fact he doesn't die
Well,
from smoke.
this is
like,
the thing: is the burning building, or is that just like symbolism for something else? Because John Goodman just walks fucking back into his room like he's just going to stay there for the night. You know what I mean?
Who
And-
must have died, right? Like, that's like how they got him. Like
Well, I don't know if it's literally burning. This is the thing.
maybe.
Like, is it just because no one seems to. Everyone references the heat, but no one acts like the building is on fire. No one's like coughing and stop, dropping, and rolling. You know what I mean? Like, and
I don't know.
If a building was on fire, like to that extent, you would
Yes.
not be able to fucking stand without like passing out. from,
Exactly.
like-
Yeah. I don't know. And it's such a decrepit building as well. Like it wouldn't last that long if there was a fire.
it makes sense that it's highly flammable. Like that makes sense. Like
I mean, we never
like,
find
the
out what that liquid
wallpaper-
is between the wallpaper. That
Oh, that's it.
fucking
Like,
weird
man,
pus.
that's disgusting, dude. Like, it's
Jesus,
so
that was
gross.
so gross. Ah.
The scene where like he can hear the couple next door having sex, and then he like has got all the fucking like jizz on his hands from like the
Jesus.
fucking wallpapers. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
that's the most
no.
repugnant thing I've seen in a movie in ages. Oh, and bless, he gets like the pins from Steve Buscemi. He's like, oh, this should help, and it just makes it worse. Like, oh,
Steve Buscemi's great in this movie.
he's so
great.
good. He's in there for like 5 seconds, but the best thing he does is that he says his name is Chet with an exclamation mark.
Yeah, Chet.
It's so stupid. I love it. He's like, always like, are you trans or res? And Dr. Tura's like, what?
Yeah, he's great. He's always good, Steve.
I love him.
Good old Steve.
The final fan theory I found, Brenton, was that the whole movie is actually the play that John Turturro wrote. So
At the start.
So
you
the
mean?
yeah. So the whole film we're in the play, and we see the end of the play at the very start of the movie, and then like he bows and that kind of stuff, and then the movie onwards is actually the very start of the play, and we just see the play out.
What was in terms of what was happening at the start with the play? Do you remember what was like what the set was on the stage?
It was like a generic like living room kind of 1940s play, like Streetcar Named Desire, or like a Cat and Hot Tin Roof kind of set,
Okay. Hey, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, exactly. So because also what adds credence to this theory is that some of the first lines of the film are repeated at the end as the lines in Barton's screenplay, and also the mother in the play is named Lil, which is the name of Barton's own mother. So those things I mentioned before is in the play. Also, Barton refers to his home as 6 flights up in the play, which is also the same floor that Barton Fink is on.
He's on the 6th floor.
Yeah, so it could work, Brenton. It could work.
It could work. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Somehow, would you like to see this movie as a play? Would you like to see the play of Barton Fink?
I think it's an interesting idea, and I think the screenplay is really good. But I think this works as a film. At the same time, like I think like there's plays out there that kind of explore this idea as well. Like the Star Spangled Girl comes to mind.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that.
That's a play that I think kind of explores like writer's block.
Brenton
and
passes
that
over
idea
a
as
coffee
well.
to me right now. Oh, thanks, dude. How convenient you brought it with you.
Hey man, I'm here to serve. What can I say?
Oh,
hey,
thank you.
do you mind if I just kiss your feet? And while we're at it, shall we look at what stills this movie? Ooh, it's blinding. So in case you guys have never listened to this show before, what stills this movie is that segment on the show where Nathan and myself choose a frame from the film, one still image that we think is either funny, that has got something poignant in it, maybe, or something that's just a nice thing to look at. Maybe something that sums up the movie for us.
Is this frame any of those things, Brenton?
Perhaps not, but you can find this still if you want to look at it on our Instagram page, on our YouTube.
Yeah, the links are all below in the
links
episode
are
notes.
below.
Hey, we got it. It's like we've been doing this for 91 episodes.
Please help.
And the still we picked this week is John Goodman when he rocks up into Barton Fink's apartment. I think it's when he first meets him or something like that. And like,
I think it's the first scene, yeah.
Yeah, and like John Goodman's like trying to, make small talk, trying to get to know Barton. And he does this by like holding up this like, what the fuck is it? It looks like a cup placemat or something. Like,
isn't that his tie?
oh yeah, it's his tie.
So
Jesus,
like,
I didn't even
it's one of
notice
those
that.
ties that like has the tie itself is like a normal tie, but if you flip the bottom of it up, there's another pattern that's on the inside of the tie, and on this one, it's a naked woman that's kind of squatting, and she's got like a toga on that's like a lion's, like a cheetah's head or something.
Yeah.
And John Goodman's pulling the funniest face.
I don't know what that expression is. It looks as though he's coming as he's showing the tie.
It's like he's going tee hee hee. It's like a little boy who's just seen like found a porn magazine or something, and he's got a little cutout, and he's just showing his friends at school, and he's like tee hee.
I mean,
like
this brings back a segment of the show where we just talk about clothes from movies we want to own. Brenton, would you want to own this tie?
Nathan, I wouldn't be want to seen wearing this tie ever. Like,
But imagine you're at a party, like you're in a really formal ball, and like everyone's got like ties and suits, and then you just walk up to someone and you flash them that tie underneath.
Yeah, you're officially that creep at the party then.
Jeez.
You know what I mean?
I would do it just for the reactions. I don't endorse this tie, but I kind of endorse just seeing what would happen if I had this tie.
And you got to pull that face as well when you do it.
It's so weird, but I love it. Oh, I love John Goodman. He's always good, man.
He's excellent. He's a great actor.
He's so good. Well, hey,
Hey!
let's look at this film's poster. Brenton,
Yes?
let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art?
Brenton, what do you think about this poster we got going on here?
I really like this poster. I think it's great. I think, like, obviously, the film is called Barton Fink. It has the titular character. It's got that mosquito on his, like...
What's he looking at as well? He's like, it's a close-up of John Turturro, just pulling the most, like shocked expression as, like, a mosquito is about to land on his head.
And the mosquito's got a huge shadow that is splaying across his forehead. I think it's great. I think it's really good for the film.
Same! I like the color of it. I love how it's sepia.
Yep.
I love the font of the title. I love it's got the two Johns and the... They missed an opportunity though, Brenton, where they could have said John in big writing and have like Turturro and Goodman on either side.
True.
They could have done that. But also, I love the fly on the face. It reminds me a lot of the Silence of the Lambs poster with the butterfly in the mouth.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think there's a lot of parallels there. I like the mosquito bite, Benton. I love that scene where John Turturro's in the meeting. And you see the big mosquito bite on his forehead. And the boss is like, what happened to you? And also over the film, he just gets more and more bites. Like,
I know.
do you reckon it's a metaphor for Hollywood, Brenton?
There's no mosquitoes in LA. What the hell are you on about?
It's very metaphorical, isn't it?
It's not metaphorical.
No, I wouldn't improve it at all.
metaphorical.
I wouldn't improve the poster one bit. I think it's perfect.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
Was there Barton Fink and Barton Fink?
I think there was, Brenton. I think also great name. Just a great name for a character, Barton Fink. I love it as well because they all have like the New York accents. They're like, hey, it's Fink. Hey, watch out, buddy. It's a Fink.
Well, when I hear the name, like the shortened version of Bart, I think Bartholomew. You know what I mean? I think that name.
Yeah.
But Barton, I think, is such a great name.
Also with that
Barton
accent, they're
Fink.
like Barton. You know the
Yeah.
way they say it. It's got such a ring to it.
Oh, it's great. Great title, actually. Like
Excellent. Yeah.
singular, like
Again, name a
straight to
movie
the
after
point.
your protagonist. It's that easy.
So easy.
So easy.
What's another film that's got a protagonist in it that isn't named after the protagonist that you could name the film?
So like not Harry Potter, like one where they haven't done it.
Yeah, so something like Star Wars, but you'd call it Luke Skywalker.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
jeez,
Like,
that would not work.
No, that doesn't work, but that's just an example. What's a film that could work?
Monsters Inc., but just name it Jake. Oh no, okay, rename Avatar, but call it Jake Sully. That's what they should have called Avatar.
No. Maybe instead of calling it Batman, they should call it Bruce Wayne, just for once, just to like...
Oh jeez, it feels like a Joker origin film. It's like Wayne, like they call it that instead. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, that'd actually be shit.
ugh.
Damn, yeah, it's a hard one to think of, isn't it?
Chime in, listeners. Let us know what you think the movie should be.
Yeah, listeners, if you can name a
Wait
film...
a minute, we have an audience who can do the work for us.
Yeah, if I think this could be really fun.
Yeah.
If you can think of a film that has a title that is not the main character's name, but you think could work as the title. The main character's name could work as the title.
Yeah.
Send them through to our Twitter. Send them through to our Instagram page. Comment on YouTube. Send us an email. Let us know.
Do all of the above. Let us know what you think. And then we'll get all the good ideas. We'll be like, oh, this is why the listeners are better than us.
Yeah, and in that way, we'll also be passing the power to the people. Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
All right, Brendan, Rotten Tomatoes. People are loving this movie galore because the critics give it 90% and audiences 89%. So
yeah, that's great.
Well done,
I'd say
Barton.
that's where it sits.
it's so
Well
good.
done.
It's so
Well done,
good.
Coen Brothers.
But sadly, Jonathan Rosenbaum from the Chicago Reader, he didn't like it, Brendan.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. And he wrote, this creepy satire is full of laughs and flaky twists, but by the end, you may still be scratching your head.
Because a mosquito bit you on the head.
Like the DVD comes with a mosquito inside it, like you open up the
Yeah.
box and then one just like
Man, it's just
flies
let
out.
loose and you're like, fuck.
Jesus damn it, Coens, you've done it again. I don't know. I think there might be some people who would find this movie confusing, but I don't think it is as confusing as some other films. Like I think it's more straightforward than Birdman.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. That's what I mean. It's not as like esoteric as like The Lighthouse or
No.
Birdman. You know what I
Even
mean?
Shape
Like,
of Water, this is less wanky. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I don't think I mentioned this
your
on the
favorite,
podcast
your
as well.
your favorite film, The Shape of Water.
I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast. I might have in one of our early episodes, but I fucking hate Shape of Water. And the more I think about it, the more I hate The Shape of Water.
What do you hate about it?
It's funny as well because you and I saw this together. We fucking went to the cinema.
And we were both very excited. We were like, a new film from Guillermo del Toro. We were getting massive like Pan's Labyrinth vibes. We were so excited.
And the more the film went on, the angrier I got. And I'm like, I don't want to. Like, it's not the fish sex. I'll forgive the fish sex. It's just all of it. It's so mundanely plotted. The characters are so two-dimensional. It has no storyline besides save the fucking fish. And it's like, it's trying to be like this old nostalgic kind of thing. And they're like next to a cinema and the old man's like, oh, back in the days. But like, and it, you know why I hate it? But also because it beat out in the Oscars Lady Bird and 3 Billboards.
Nathan, look, I don't hate it as much as you. In fact, I wouldn't even say I hate it. I didn't mind it, but
What a waste of Michael Shannon.
I thought Michael Shannon was great. I thought he was really good in it.
Yeah, but he didn't get his neck snapped, Brenton.
I just think it was nowhere near the best picture that year, and it just had some.
It was nicely shot. I like the sets.
Yeah, the production design was amazing.
Just nothing happens. It's just bloody what's her name? It's like just deaf girl making like weird love eyes at the fish for like half the movie, and then she ends up being a fish at the end. Like, ugh.
Yeah, she grows those gills.
Ugh.
Gene Siskel didn't though. He didn't grow any gills from the
I
Chicago
wish.
Tribune. He says, it's at its best when young Barton Fink simply stares at a picture of a bathing beauty contemplating the ocean. A Hollywood dream. 3.5 out of 4.
I feel like this is a film I feel like critics would love. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like on the internet after this, I'm going to read long, editorials about, all of that. And I'm genuinely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of critiques in this film and a lot of people writing essays and shit about this movie.
Oh,
like,
Jesus, the
there'd be a lot
fucking video essay market on YouTube would be jumping.
Yeah, exactly.
Jumping hoops over this.
If that gets you going, it'll be there. It'll be there.
Dusty R gave it 5 stars and wrote, the best movie about a writer at work you will ever find. Probably. I do like Adaption with Nicolas Cage. That's quite good.
I haven't seen it.
Mate. It's one of the most Nicolas Cage performances you'll see. It's great.
Damn, that got me going.
It's Nick Cage going full Nick Cage. It's excellent.
Films about writers.
I'm sure people are screaming titles at us right now, but like, there's a handful of them.
But again, in the moment, it's hard to think of them.
It is, isn't it? But this is definitely up there. Like,
Yeah.
Tell you what, if there's not an immediate movie besides adaptation screaming at me, it probably means that Barton's doing a good job, if I can't think of others.
Totally.
Yeah.
Agreed. SD gives it 2 stars and says, Coen writer's block. Coen Brothers. Let's write the most inane, senseless movie ever, and I bet people will rave about it. Inane, senseless. I wouldn't call it either of those things, personally.
No, I don't think this is them. This reminds me of like that Stan Lee story where like, the Marvel comics were selling so well back in the 60s. And so him and Jack Kirby were like, had a bet saying, let's make a stupid comic book just to prove that we can sell anything. And so they wrote one called like The Howling Commandos, which is like, have you seen the first Captain America?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like his team back in World War II. And they wrote that because they thought it was the stupidest title. And then ironically, the comic book did end up outselling it.
It's amazing that kind of stuff that you hear, isn't it? That like people are just like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do this on a dare and it'll end up being excellent. But I don't think the Coens were doing that. I don't think this doesn't feel like an afterthought, you know?
I think their writing, this film probably came from a more personal place, to be honest. I think, you know.
Even though I've read interviews with them where they say this is really not autobiographical. Like, we haven't.
No, I
had
don't think
writers
it's
talk like this.
autobiographical at all. I don't think it's that. I think it may be at a point they're just sharing their experiences with like a creative block, maybe, or
Yeah. They just went wrestling one day and they thought we had to write this movie.
because obviously I don't think it's their experience in Hollywood.
No, because they said as well, like, they found Hollywood quite easy when they went through, so.
Jim X says, John Goodman running down a corridor with flames running alongside him, one of the greatest cinematic images ever. It's pretty good.
It is quite excellent. I was debating that for the
amazing.
still as well, like.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
It's so good.
Especially because it's so well set up as well, because like throughout the film we get so many shots of that corridor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a great set.
It's so, and all the shoes outside the front doors being shined.
Oh, it's great. Like, it's just great.
It's so
great composition.
good.
Really good.
Have you seen you haven't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, have you?
No, I haven't.
Because spoiler alert for that movie, John Goodman goes a little bit cuckoo in that movie.
Ooh.
And he charges after the protagonist at one point, and I was getting a lot of those kind of vibes when I saw John Goodman. So I think it echoes throughout his career, which is so weird because he plays characters like this, fucking lunatics, but he also plays like Sully from Monsters Inc. and like Pacha from Emperors. Like he's on both ends of the spectrum.
That's it. I love John Goodman. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
I hope he gets an Academy Award one day. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I do too. It'd be interesting to see what kind of role it would be for, though. You know.
Also, criminally, no one was like he didn't get nominated. Like Barton didn't get nominated.
No, the
boss
the
did.
studio head did,
rightfully as well.
And I think he's fantastic as well. In that,
so good. And like also like it's in the delivery. I think that performance is made. Like it's well writ, but like I think. You know, I think the acting does the job.
Like I said, that character's all that Coen Brothers bullshit, man. It's got it all going out the wazoo.
Good.
I love it.
And lastly, from Mike DeLoretto, he wrote on YouTube, God, I just love John Goodman popping his head in and saying, howdy, neighbor.
Mate, if John Goodman popped his head into my place every day, I'd be a better person.
I'd be a better person too. You feel like you've just grown.
Yeah.
Oh, howdy, neighbor. Oh.
And speaking of grown, we just watched Barton Fink.
We did.
And that was our thoughts on it.
Oh, that's what we thinked about it. Ha
guys, thank you so much for listening in again to Classic Movie Banter. We love you guys as always.
Oh, thanks for joining us. What a meal.
We want to keep this conversation going, and we want to know what you think about Barton Fink and about any other films in general that you would like to talk about. And if you want to keep that conversation going, pop over to our Instagram page, pop over to our YouTube, subscribe to us on the podcast app.
All of that.
We're everywhere these days. We're on Spotify. Oh, gosh, Nathan, it's a good time to be a Classic Movie Banter fan.
Isn't it?
Like I said, we can't wait to interact with you guys. If you guys could also give us a review on the podcast app, that would be amazing. That helps us out so much.
Kiss.
It really does. It does. Chef's kiss. But yeah, we love you guys, and we can't wait to see you next week for another film.
Yeah, another film. I'm very excited for next week's episode, Brenton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you excited to keep wrestling?
Oh, no, Brenton. This whole time you've held me down on the floor for over an hour. But now I'll finally be able to beat you. Well, there goes my legs.